All right, so we're live. I'm just gonna share. Just gonna share the stream in the Discord real quick. Gonna bring this over here. Live streaming right now. Let's add some kind of a square. Not Gladihoppers 2 development. Working on the fight scene. And the link. I think that's enough. All right. Yeah, I think that's everything I needed to do before starting actual work. Okay, so today I'm gonna work on the fight scene. I'm gonna make some impact visual effects, and then if I have time, I'm gonna start working on the dropping and the picking up of the weapon. So yeah, let's just jump straight into the game. Okay, so I've got my battle visual effects manager here. I've already got some bleeding effects added, and I'm probably gonna change all of these later on as well, because I don't really like the particle systems right now. I don't think it looks super good. So I would like to have some more sprite-based animations instead. But I'm gonna create a particle system for the impact effect, and the impact effect is basically gonna be some kind of a white little sparkle thing that happens when two weapons collide, or when you hit the shield with your weapon, the opponent's shield. I think that's what I want to start doing. So if I can copy this, I don't understand why my keyboard is not working. Control C, Control F. My keyboard is just not working at all right now. Anyway, if you're watching this, just say hi so I know you're there, because I see someone is watching. So I'm having some problems with Unity in general. I guess I'm gonna do a reboot. This is very exciting stuff. Right, so it's working now. So I've got this particle system here, which is a bleeder, I'm calling it. So let's just rename this to impact just impact FX. I'll create a new original prefab out of that. Open that up and let's just make something something that is white instead of red. So that's too much, and it shouldn't have that kind of speed when it comes out. So maybe put it between 0.2 and 0.4. Probably shouldn't be influenced by gravity. At least not that much. Probably not at all. And it should have no speed. No, maybe it should change the emission shape to circle, and it should go from radius arc, yeah, 360. So what happens? Yeah, that looks terrible, but I'm gonna try it out. See how it looks. So in the visual effects manager, we're just gonna call this impactor instead, and we're gonna call this one impactor 000. Duplicate that. So we got 4 of them. That's enough. All right, so let's add that to our script. Just gonna do exactly the same as I did with the blood effect. So impactor transforms and impactors. Okay, so we're gonna spawn impact FX, and this is gonna take a weapon hit called hit. Let's just copy the same thing here. So if the hit that we received from whatever is sending the hit information, if the damage is actually less than 5, which is an arbitrary number, I might have to... I'm just gonna keep it as 5 for now, but yeah, it's an arbitrary number. If it's less than 5, then we don't do anything, but otherwise we're gonna loop through all of our impactors, see if one of them is available. And if it's not available, well, if it is available, then we're gonna move it to the position of the impact. So I'm just gonna copy everything, and then I'll change it. So the position is set to exactly the position where the hit happened, and the rotation is gonna be in the hit direction. No, this is not relevant for an impact, so we're just gonna set the rotation to basically 0. The parent, I don't think we need to parent it to anything, because the impact happens even if the weapons collide and the weapons move away from each other. The impact should stay where it occurred, right? So, and I'm gonna comment out all of this and just play it, and then we can see if it actually works. Probably need to assign all of our objects as well, so we need 4 of them. We can just do this. All right, so this doesn't do anything right now because we need to call this function from our weapon. Let's start with the weapons. So if a weapon is hit by another weapon, we play a sound effect. All right, that's good. And we're also going to call the function on our visual effects manager. So we need to add a reference to that. VFX manager. Let's just call it. Let's call it battle. Okay. Spawn impact effect. And we pass in the hit. So let's see how that works. Okay. Okay, so it's the rotation is wrong, obviously. Let's check. See what happens. There, we pause the game and we go into our VFX manager. This is the impactor in question. So the rotation needs to be like it needs to be rotated, I guess. I mean, I think in the y-axis, but I'm not sure. So let's do a new Should be 180, right? I don't know, let's just gonna do this by trial and error. Oh, hello, Adam. Thank you. Have a nice day, you too. I assume you left. Anyway, let's see. So that's wrong. It should be in the... Wait, 180. Why did I do 180? It should have been 90. So that's better. Alright, so the rotation is correct. Now we just need to make it look a little bit better. You know, I could have just checked which rotation it should have here, because here it's minus 90. Minus 90. Why? Because that's how the bleeding effect worked, I guess. So I'm gonna turn the duration down to something like 0.3, lifetime 0.3. And just way less particles, maybe like rate over time. Let me just do 100 per second. Let's do even less than that, 30. And they need to happen. Well, no, let's bring it up and let's do like, I don't know, 300 per second, and just do a maximum amount, set it to, say like 6. All right. And bring the speed down even more. That's still terrible, but it's better. Just gonna wait for this guy to lower his weapon. There we go. Okay, that's horrible. But it doesn't matter, because as I mentioned, it's gonna be a different effect later on anyway, so I'm just gonna keep it like that for placeholder. Maybe I'll increase the duration to maybe twice the speed, twice the duration, and set it to fade out a little bit more slowly, like. Okay. Alright, so now we've got the weapons colliding with each other and spawning some particles. We're going to do the same thing for our shield. So when the shield is hit by a weapon, we're gonna first gonna make a reference to our battle visual effects manager. All right. I kind of want to make it gray instead, just so it's gonna be a little bit easier to look at. I mean, it's a placeholder particle effect, but it still needs to be somewhat good looking. Like 180, 180, 180. Make it a bit bluish. I don't know, like that. Ah, I copied that one. Paste. Maybe that's a bit too dark. Yeah, I guess that's good enough. Let me make one last tweak. Just make it like white when it starts and slightly grayish when it fades out. So that should be better. Okay. So, what do we need to do after this? Well, we kind of need to go into our weapon hit. Because when a weapon gets hit by another weapon, or when a shield gets hit by a weapon, we send a weapon hit, and it receives a weapon hit containing information about the damage and everything else. So what is relevant to our weapon when it receives and our shield, for example, when it receives a weapon hit, should be to know whether or not which kind of weapon hit it was. Is that necessary? That's a good question. I don't think it's necessary. Not right now. Because the shield and the weapon are receiving the information about our weapon hit here. So they know what kind of damage type it was, they know which was the weapon that hit them, they know the position of the hit, they know the direction of the hit, the relative velocity, as well as the damage. Just gonna put the damage up here because it makes more sense. Damage type, damage. Okay, weapon, which was the target hit. Alright, then some other information there. Position, okay. It is just set target to null as well, I guess. I mean, I don't think we need to do anything more on this right now. I think that's like the shield and the weapon, they spawn particles now, which is kind of all we wanted to do. So I'm gonna move on to instead taking care of the next thing on the list, which I'm bringing up the list there on the other screen to see what that was. It was dropping and picking up weapons. Okay, this is much kind of a bigger thing to implement, I guess. It's gonna take a lot longer than just spawning some particles for weapon hits. So I want to add a button, first of all, kind of like a debug button that I can just press to throw the weapon on the ground. I don't know if there's gonna actually be a button like that in the future, but let's add it. Let's just add it right here to our HUD canvas. So we're gonna add a UI button doesn't need to be a text mesh pro object. It can just be a normal button. We're gonna delete the text. I'm just gonna set the UI sprite to be a knob. Why is it like that? Oh, it needs to be preserve aspect as well, I guess. Set native size. How big is that? That's very small. I guess we can make it 100 by 100. Just gonna put it on this side of the screen and maybe move it out a little bit. Make it red so it's very easy to see. So what happens when we press this button? Well, we are going to call a very debug kind of a function in our weapon script. Oh, I already have a function called drop. I don't know when I implemented that, but should work. So let's call that from our drop pickup button. So when we press this, this should probably be done in a completely different way in the future, but for now I'm just gonna go directly into my player 1 character's weapon and tell it to be dropped on the ground. Oh, hi Shals, welcome. I had another window open on my other screen, so I didn't see that you said hi, but I see you now. So let's just, where was it? Drop pickup button. Let's bring our weapon in here and call the function drop. I am working on the fight scene right now, and I've made some placeholder impact effects for when you hit a weapon or when you hit the shield here. And yeah, later on they're gonna be changed, of course, but that's how they look right now. And now if I press this red button, the weapon should drop from my hands. And nothing happens. That's probably because no, there's no reason that shouldn't happen. What's the problem? Because we have our weapon, the rigid body is set to be kinematic and simulated. What happens when I start a game? It's still simulated. And it's still kinematic. So when I press the button, why doesn't it drop from my hands? Maybe it's too small? I don't know. Yeah, basically Gladihoppers was so the physics of this game is a little bit different, because basically Gladihoppers had just one capsule collider for the entire body, and then it was kind of rotating back and forth. This time around, I have some more colliders here. And the legs are kind of independent, which I don't particularly like right now. And at the same time, the torso is always trying to stay upright. So you have this like very stiff movement, but the legs are very, how do you say? The legs are very wobbly. Yeah, it's very jumpy, but it's not gonna. I'm pretty sure it's not gonna stay like that. I'm just trying to make the weapon drop right now, but it's just not happening. Alright, so I'm just gonna print out the text here just to see that we're actually calling the function. I mean, of course we're calling the function, but it's always good to just be 100% sure that there's nothing weird going on. Oh yeah, so the button is not working at all. That's probably because I don't have a... Yeah, I don't have a raycaster, a graphic raycaster component on my canvas, which checks for input. And now it checked for an input and it called the drop function on my weapon script, and the weapon fell to the ground, and it's acting weird because it's still being animated, I guess. The character is still trying to animate the weapon. So that's what I'll do next. I guess I shouldn't tell... I mean, it makes no sense to tell the weapon directly that it should be dropped. This is the responsibility, I guess, of the... I'm a VTuber, Brog, because that's just who I am. You know? I don't know what else to say. Just how I'm feeling right now. Thank you, Brog. You too, have a good day. No, but the truth is that I actually have my desk facing the wall, and all my windows are right behind me. So it's like very difficult to get good lighting. So I figured before I spend a lot of time trying to fix my setup, I'm just gonna use an avatar. So I was trying to make the actual character handling being in charge of the weapon dropping, because then I can at the same time tell the weapon to stop animating, so we don't get that weird kind of weird thing going on. So this button the drop pickup button should instead communicate with our hopper. Drop weapon seems to be a private function, so we need to make it public. Alright, so that worked, and it stopped trying to animate the... It stopped trying to animate the weapon because we set our weapon to null, and I guess somewhere else in this code I'm checking whether or not the weapon is null before I try to animate it. Yeah, here we are. Okay, so now I need to figure out how to actually pick up a weapon that is on the ground. And that's a pretty good question. So what happens with our weapon when we drop it? The weapon probably has some kind of information here in the script whether or not it has an owner or someone who's wielding it. And that's the hopper here. So right now this is set to null. So I guess we could go through like every kind, like we should have some kind of a script that checks every weapon in the scene. If someone is in the vicinity, and I guess this is kind of a UI question as well. Do we want... There's obviously not going to be a big red button here on the screen. We might want to have some kind of a pop-up menu where you can, like a wheel. What do you call it? Like a wheel with lots of buttons. You press a button and then you get a yeah. Let's try to figure this out. Anyway, either way, you press a button that tells your character to drop his weapon. Then, if you don't have a weapon, that button becomes like a pick up weapon button or something. A dual wield sword. You mean if there's gonna be dual wielding in the game? I mean, this is a bit tricky. Yeah, I don't know, actually. I think, I mean, like, it's probably not gonna be... I have, right now, we have one-handed swords, one-handed maces, and one-handed axes, right? Just like in Gladihoppers. We also got... Yeah, two-handed weapons, of course, that are coming. Still haven't implemented them. Spears, and I guess unarmed is gonna be the next thing after that. So like hand-to-hand combat. And then yeah, I guess dual wielding is probably the only other thing that you can actually add, because like aside from one-handed weapons, two-handed weapons, spears, like pole arms, so like halberds or whatever they're called, as well as spears. Unarmed, like boxing kind of combat, then throwing weapons, and I think we ran out of weapons. There are no more weapon types, so I guess dual wielding is what has to come after that. How about when we hold the button, it's drop the weapon in grab button, like we grapple the enemy. Yeah, you know, the problem with this, I think, is that there are so many actions that, like, if everything goes well, and I'm able to like implement lots of stuff, then there's gonna be so many actions in the game, and ultimately there's gonna be a problem of how do we access those actions, because swiping works, like assuming that people are gonna play with swipes, with swiping movement. Swiping works for simple actions like well, I mean, like attack actions. You swipe in a direction, and but there are only 4 directions you can swipe in, so that's 4 actions. And like if it's gonna be anything like Gladihoppers, we need to reserve those swipes for attacks, right? Which means that the only other way to kind of trigger other actions is by making buttons for them. And that's kind of it's a bit of a problem. I mean, it's not a problem in and of itself to have buttons, but too many buttons is not a good thing. I'm gonna try to make a little sketch here. Let's just hide this button for now. Okay. So let's try to figure out what we need. We need a button. This is exactly like in Gladihoppers, where we had the javelin, like throw the javelin button was located here. So you're gonna swipe with your fingers down here, then you're gonna tap the button up here. Now, since we're gonna have a lot more actions in this game, I kind of want this button to be some sort of a pop-up, like a it's gonna trigger like a pop-up menu with more buttons that you can choose from. I think that's the only way I'm able to imagine it working. Yeah, I mean, like, you customize the position. I guess you can customize the position of the where you want this button to be. Maybe I could even make it so that because like there's not gonna be it's not gonna be like 20 actions. I might be able to limit to like just have like 4 other actions, because if we have 4 other actions, then we can position them like this, and then basically what would happen is you would tap with your finger here and then swipe in a direction, and that would trigger the action. So you tap and swipe. Tap and swipe. So let's say you drop your weapon with this button down here, you would tap and swipe and you would drop your weapon. I guess that's a way to do it. But I don't know if it's I don't know if it's a good solution. Like the only other way that it can be done, I guess, is to have many buttons up here. But that will be incredibly ugly. But regardless of how it's done, I don't need to figure that out right now. I can just start implementing the actual functionality, like the actual actions. But I need to figure out what is needed. So we do want to be like, I'm not sure this is actually gonna be an action, because if you think about it like this, you are going to be in a fight scene when you fight against an opponent, and you start with a weapon, a melee weapon. The opponent starts with a melee weapon. Why would you ever drop your weapon? That's the question. Unless there's some other kind of situation in which you can pick up weapons from the ground and equip them. I don't know. But you know, like the only time you would pick up your opponent's weapon would be like when the fight ended and you're losing them. So what I'm trying to say is I do want to implement this functionality of dropping a weapon, but I'm not sure it's actually going to be an action in the final game. But yeah, let's assume that you can just tap a button and you drop your weapon. You should also be able to throw I'm just gonna call it M weapon, like throw your melee weapon. You should also be able to throw I will just call it T weapons, like throwing weapons. Yeah, but I mean, like if you want to use your, like theoretically you could, yeah, you could drop your weapon during the fight and start, you know, fist fighting your opponent. But you could also unequip your weapon before the fight starts, I guess, if you want to just fist fight. Because I haven't really shown this, but we got I've been started working on a let me just mute. I started working on the what's it called, the inventory screen here. So you could unequip everything and then go fight someone, I guess. Yeah, the character doesn't correspond to the one I had on the other screen, in the other scene, like on the overworld, because I haven't implemented that yet. But I mean, like that's one way of doing it, I guess. But if we go, so yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I guess if there's space, definitely I can add like a button where you can just drop your weapon. I mean, the more options you have in the game, the better. Yeah, before we start the fight, we need to set the loadout. I mean, not, I don't think, yeah, I guess, like, it would make sense that you, mm, so let's say you're attacked by an enemy and you're unprepared and you've been, just unequipping your weapons or whatever. For some reason, you want to change your loadout before the fight starts. So yeah, I guess it's a good idea that like before the actual fight starts, you should have like an inventory screen there, or at least access to the inventory screen if you want to change something. So you could, like, I don't know, drink a potion or something before the fight actually starts. So yeah, I don't know. Dropping the weapon could be an option, but we definitely need to throw the melee weapon, and we also need to throw our throwing weapons, which is another thing I still haven't implemented. But those are three things you should be able to do. Um, I mean, like, use items, I guess. Like, use item. Mm. So, for example, a potion. You might be able to drink a potion during the fight. I guess that makes sense. The question is, though, how do you... Yeah, if we go back to the... Okay, so you got your weapon. You got your weapon. You got your throwing weapons. So either throwing knives or javelins. And maybe you got like a potion or like an item. There should be some kind of a quick bar uh, where you can okay, so yeah, I guess this makes sense. No, I don't think it's gonna be automatic. Like I don't think you're gonna use the. You should have to actually use the potion. But as I was saying, like here right now the inventory is like very very simple. We got everything in a list, just up and down here, just a list, vertical list here. But I guess it could make sense that you have some sort of a slot for for a weapon, of course, a slot for a shield. You have slots for equipment, but then you should have a slot for like a quick item or like a consumable, I guess we can call it. So let's change this. So use consumable. So this means that you're gonna have a button where you can tap that button, and if you have set if you have put basically put the consumable in your consumable slot in the inventory, then that will show up here in the game, and you can use it and consume like a potion. Because it doesn't make any sense that you can go into your inventory and use whatever it is you have in your inventory during a fight. You need to specifically assign a consumable to the whatever we want to call it, a quick item slot or like a consumable slot. I think that makes sense. So let's say that this is our inventory. We should have a slot for a weapon, a slot for a shield. But as you were saying, if there's ever going to be dual wielding, then it makes more sense to call these slots left hand and right hand, right? Or like primary and secondary hand. So like this is supposed to be a hand. And this is another hand. So we got two hands. We're just gonna flip that one like that. So these are our two slots for our hands. Then, of course, we're gonna have all the slots for our equipment. So like our helmets and shirts and pants and everything. And then there should be like a slot for a consumable, which I'm just gonna put the potion. That doesn't look like a potion. Yeah, let's make like a piece of meat instead. This is a piece of meat. Yeah, whatever, a consumable, right? So if you don't have anything in your consumable slot when the fight starts, then you don't have anything to consume, obviously. It only appears during the fight and from the steel. If the enemy also has this health pot, we will see their backpack and take it to our backpack. Yes, I mean, like, that's after the fight is actually done. Yeah, exactly. After the fight is done, you should be able to loot your opponent. And I think that's gonna be connected to like a looting skill. So as you can see here, if we go back to our character menu, I also have made some buttons for upgrades, stats, and miscellaneous, which I don't know what's gonna be yet, but upgrades doesn't work. The button doesn't work yet, but you know, you should be able to upgrade your looting skill and other skills as well. But your looting skill will be tied into your how much of the opponent's items or like inventory that you can steal after the fight is done, that you can loot. I think that makes sense. So if we go back here, I think I figured out at least a little bit how it's gonna work. Yeah. So using consumables is another option that you can do. It's another action that you can do during the game, during the fight. A skill tree, I'm not sure because it depends on what the skill tree would mean. If it's like a skill tree where you unlock skills that are something like 2% more damage, that could, I guess, that could be done, but it's not a very fun skill tree, I guess. If it's skills like you can do a special kind of attack, then that's a lot of work, I think, to make it worth it, because then you need to actually have like lots of stuff that you could do that you can't do at the start of the game. So like, I don't know, for example, let's say there are I don't know, a stupid example, but maybe like there are animals in the game and you can communicate with the animals, but you need a skill for that. You can, that's kind of like this skill tree that I imagine. That's skill trees that are more interesting. But that would make it so that you need to like add a lot of features that are tied into each skill. Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna communicate with animals. It was just an example from other games. But let's say like you can make a like a very heavy attack. Like in Gladihoppers, you have the heavy attacks. If you swipe down from the high stance, you perform a heavy attack. If that would be hidden behind like a skill tree, and you needed to unlock it inside a skill tree, that would be, I don't think that would be a bad thing, but it would mean that there would need to be a lot of those kind of special actions that you can unlock in those skill trees. And that's a lot of stuff to add to make it worthwhile. I think that's what I'm trying to say. So, I think I'm just gonna continue streaming for like another 30 minutes, then I'm gonna go and have dinner. But I want to make it so that you can pick up the weapon that you drop on the ground. I absolutely want to do that because at least I have achieved something. So let's unhide the drop pickup button again. And actually, I'm just going to call this the drop button. So we're going to make another button called pickup, just for testing purposes. Put it up here. We'll make it green. And I guess what we can do is, if our pickup button is pressed, then our character will try to pick something up. We'll make a new region here called interact with environment and region. So we're gonna make a public function called pick up something. Now, what will happen when we try to pick up something? That's a good question. So, Hopper, where is it? Pick up something there. Okay, so we can hide this. We call this button options. Let's say we have a weapon on the ground here. What should happen if we come close to it and we press our pickup button? Well, we should probably ask someone whether or not there is anything that is able to be picked up in our vicinity. Right? So who do we ask? Who do we ask? Yeah, like that's one way of doing it. Like the pickup button appears if we are close to it. I mean, that's how many games do it. Why don't I want to do that? I'm not sure. I mean, it's again a question of how we want to handle the user interface. I mean, I guess that's not a bad idea, right? Let's say that the character moves over here. Now, a button pops up above the item that is closest to the character. And it's something like a hand. That's a horrible hand. If it picks up the thing automatically, let's say that you dropped your weapon because you want to drop your weapon, and now you run over your weapon and it picks it up automatically. That's a bad, I guess, bad feeling for the player. It's just gonna feel bad, like automatically picking something up. I mean, there are certain contexts in which you could pick something up automatically. Like, I don't know, in Minecraft, if you mine something, it automatically picks it up if you're close to it. That makes a lot of sense because it's not a big chance that you wouldn't want to pick it up. But in this case, well, in this case, it might be, because I'm thinking again of Gladihoppers, the javelins in that game. If you were close to them, you pick them up automatically, because you would always, if you had space in your, if you had space for another javelin, you would always want to pick up another javelin, right? That makes sense. Same thing in this game. Like, if there's gonna be throwing weapons, and let's say there's a let's say there's a little... I'm just gonna do this, you know? I'm gonna grab... I got some new sprites here. It's not there. I think it's here. Let's say there's a throwing axe lying here on the ground. So let's say there's a throwing axe. You would want, well, so since there are going to be different throwing weapons, your opponent might have a throwing axe, like a bunch of throwing axes, like 5 of them. You might have 3 javelins. You shouldn't, you're not able to pick up another a throwing axe if you still have like some of your javelins left in your inventory or equipped on you, right? So what would happen is you would have to throw away all of your javelins before you could actually pick up a throwing axe. I think that makes sense. But what would happen if you ran over a weapon and you don't have a weapon equipped? Like a melee weapon. Should you equip it or should you not equip it? That's the question. Or do we make it so that you automatically pick up throwing weapons if you are able to, if you have space, and you don't have another throwing weapon equipped, but actual melee weapons receive this kind of a pop-up pickup button hovering over them? I think that's one way we could do it. Yeah, so you're saying that javelin is a throwable weapon, and melee weapons should be has a different priority, and I agree with that. Like melee weapon is like to pick up another melee weapon should be considered. It should be. It should have a different weight than picking up a throwable weapon. So throwable weapons, yeah, I agree, they could be picked up automatically. Whereas a melee weapon, if it appears on the ground for some reason, because we don't know for what reasons melee weapons would be on the ground, you know? Maybe your opponent throws his melee weapon and you have a melee weapon equipped. This thing should still appear. And then you would tap the button, it would switch your weapon for the weapon on the ground, right? But it should not be done automatically because it has a different weight. It has a different importance compared to a throwable weapon. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I'm gonna just write this down so I remember. Let's actually write it with text. If mm, mm, mm. If we are close to a melee weapon, toggle pop a button pops up to let us know we can pick it up. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just gonna save this as fight scene pickup, and then I can consult this document later just to refresh my mind and see what we thought about. Because I don't think I'm gonna be able to implement this right away. It's probably gonna take a while. How about if we don't close the if we're not close to the melee weapon, the pickup button will disappear in 3 seconds. Yes, I mean like the pickup button obviously is going to appear when you're close to the weapon, and then if you move away from the weapon, it will automatically disappear. Thank you, Shells. Yeah, so I think that this is a pretty good option, which means that um, we actually don't need. Well, we still need a button to. We still need a button to drop our weapon. Theoretically, if we do want to enable the player to drop their weapon, then there needs to be a button for that. But for example, we do not need a button in our little quick action, like quick what do you call it? Quick like action wheel kind of pop-up menu that will be here. I don't think we need to have an option to like interact with the environment, because those buttons will be pop-up buttons that will appear just hovering above whatever object that we can interact with. I guess that's good, because to have another option here would kind of make this menu a bit crowded. And as I said, the drop weapon, I don't know, it might be, yeah, it might not be needed, but that's an issue for another day. Yeah. Let's see how long we've been streaming now. The analog, you mean like actual buttons for the attacks and stuff? Or what do you mean? Yeah, yeah, I mean, like just like in Gladihoppers, there's gonna be, I think, for sure, um, buttons like for the actions and like blocking and all of those things. Yeah, so we've been streaming for 1.5 hours. I think I'm gonna stop here because I was hoping to do a little bit more work, but I realized that this this dropping and picking up a weapon thing wasn't as easy as I thought, so it's gonna take a while. And it also has a lot of implications on the UI, and I wasn't really thinking about that. But but I'm pretty happy because I know now how to do it, which means that I can just sit down and implement that before the next stream. And then the next stream, I will try to think about something else that can be done that probably, hopefully, should be a little bit more interesting than this, I guess. Anyway, thank you, Charles, for all your help. It's been really useful. And yeah, I'm gonna dinner time. Yeah, exactly. It's time for dinner. It's almost 8 p.m. where I live, so I'm feeling quite hungry, as Henry would say from a game that I can't remember the name of right now. Anyway, thank you so much, Charles, and I'll see you on Discord probably. And yeah, all right. I'll end it here. Thank you very much. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye.